There are moments in connection when a single sentence becomes unforgettable. Not because it was clever, or dramatic, or rehearsed, but because it landed somewhere deep, somewhere tender, unexpected, and true. We like to think attraction is built on grand gestures or flawless confidence, but more often, it's built on micro-moments of emotional resonance. A tone, a pause, and sometimes, 3 simple words that shift the air between 2 people. The power of intentional language is often underestimated, yet it shapes the emotional experience between 2 people more profoundly than any flawless appearance or perfectly planned gesture. When you choose your words with intention, you signal not only what you think but how deeply you are paying attention. People remember the language that makes them feel something, and for a woman, emotional resonance is often tied directly to the sense that someone is speaking to her, not at her. Intentional language is not about using sophisticated vocabulary or rehearsed lines, it is about choosing words that reflect presence, attunement, and genuine interest. It's the difference between saying what is convenient and saying what is meaningful. When your words are intentional, you communicate emotional clarity, and clarity builds trust. Without trust, attraction flickers. With it, attraction grows roots. Intentional language creates an internal shift because it carries purpose. A man who speaks with intention listens first, feels second, and responds from a deeper place rather than from impulse or habit. He chooses words that match the emotional temperature of the moment. Instead of rushing to impress, he speaks in a way that reveals understanding, and understanding is rare enough today that it becomes magnetic. Women are naturally drawn to emotional intelligence because it signals stability and maturity. When you speak intentionally, you show that your words are connected to thought, and your thought is connected to feeling. This is what makes someone linger in her mind long after the conversation ends. Furthermore, intentional language slows the pace of communication just enough to create intimacy. It is in that slight pause, that moment of thoughtfulness before speaking, that she senses presence. Presence is seductive because it makes her feel prioritized. The right words spoken with intention create a moment of emotional spaciousness where she can let her guard down. When she experiences that feeling near you, she begins to associate your presence with comfort and emotional safety. This is where memory starts forming. The brain remembers people who make it feel secure, accepted, or deeply understood. Intentional language also disrupts the autopilot patterns that dominate most conversations. Instead of predictable small talk, you introduce consciousness. Instead of cliché responses, you offer authenticity. These subtle differences create emotional contrast, and contrast is what stands out. She begins to replay your words because they were spoken with care rather than convenience. In a world full of noise, intention is unmistakably rare, and when a woman encounters a man who uses his words purposefully, she cannot help but think about him long after their exchange. Emotional safety and resonance form the foundation of why certain words stay with a woman long after the moment has passed. She remembers not only what was said, but the emotional atmosphere created while it was being spoken. Emotional safety is not about avoiding difficult topics or trying to make everything smooth and easy. It is about creating a space where she feels she can be authentic without fear of judgment or dismissal. When your presence communicates acceptance and groundedness, your words gain weight. They settle deeper. They echo longer. A woman thinks about someone nonstop not because he eliminates uncertainty, but because he offers a consistent emotional tone where she feels seen, heard, and valued. When she senses that you are engaging with her feelings instead of bypassing them, she instinctively relaxes, and in that relaxation, admiration grows. Resonance happens when your words match the emotional frequency of her inner world. Instead of imposing your interpretations, you reflect her experience, and that reflection creates a sense of closeness that feels intimate without being intrusive. Most people listen only to respond, but resonance requires listening to understand. It requires staying present with what she says and what she doesn't say, responding to the subtleties rather than the surface. When you mirror her emotion with sincerity, you offer her a rare form of validation. And validation, when done authentically, is compelling. It makes her feel that her emotional life matters, that her thoughts have impact, and that her presence influences you. That is powerful. That is unforgettable. The reason emotional safety is so magnetic is because it is so uncommon. Many interactions are rushed, competitive, or transactional, leaving people feeling unseen even after long conversations. But when you create a space where she feels emotionally held, her mind returns to that experience again and again. She begins to associate you with a sense of inner calm, or with a spark of curiosity, or with a feeling of being deeply understood. Those sensations stay with her because the human brain is wired to remember emotional experiences that stand out from the usual noise. Especially for women, who often pay close attention to shifts in emotional energy, a moment of genuine resonance can become a point of fixation. Your words begin to matter in a different way when they are delivered from a place of empathy rather than performance. You are no longer just communicating information, you are creating connection. When a woman feels emotionally safe with you, she naturally becomes more open, more trusting, and more invested. And when your words resonate with her emotional truth, she cannot help but revisit the memory of that connection, replaying it in her thoughts, feeling it again each time she does. Curiosity is one of the most underestimated forms of attraction because it communicates something far deeper than interest. It communicates intention. When you approach a woman with genuine curiosity, you signal that you are not merely observing her from the outside but actively seeking to understand her inner world. This is powerful because most people move through conversations in predictable, surface-level patterns, never venturing beyond what is safe or habitual. Curiosity breaks that pattern. It invites her into a shared space where discovery, vulnerability, and exploration feel natural rather than forced. When a woman feels that you are sincerely curious about her thoughts, feelings, and experiences, she experiences a subtle emotional awakening, a shift that makes her want to lean closer rather than pull away. Curiosity creates attraction because it gives her something to respond to emotionally. Instead of offering a static interaction, you offer movement and unfolding. You make her feel that there is more to explore, not just within the conversation, but within herself. And that experience lingers. When she walks away, she doesn't simply remember the facts exchanged, she remembers how alive she felt speaking with you. She remembers the way your questions made her reflect, the way your attention made her feel significant, and the way your presence made her comfortable, revealing more than she expected. This internal stimulation becomes a loop, a reason for her mind to return to you again and again. Genuine curiosity also communicates emotional security. A man who is curious is not threatened by depth, nuance, or complexity. He doesn't avoid difficult truths or uncomfortable feelings because he understands that authentic connection requires navigating the full landscape of someone's humanity. This quality allows her to feel seen beyond her surface, beyond her roles, and beyond her guarded exterior. And when a woman feels seen in that way, she is far more likely to keep thinking about the person who offered her that experience. Curiosity becomes a bridge to emotional intimacy without ever rushing or demanding it. Moreover, curiosity allows her to sense that you are present in the moment, not distracted or operating from a script. You are attuned. You are responsive. You are engaged. When you ask questions that reflect real listening rather than automatic conversation, she feels valued in a way that touches something deep within her. This is what creates resonance. This is what creates memory. She will replay your questions in her mind, consider her answers again, and even think about the things she could have shared if given a little more time. Curiosity is magnetic because it creates movement within the emotional space. It opens doors rather than closing them. It gives her space to reveal herself at her own pace, all while letting her know that you are interested in who she truly is. And when someone offers that kind of attention, it becomes almost impossible not to think about them long after the conversation ends. Presence over performance is one of the most transformative principles in building genuine connection because it shifts the entire dynamic from trying to impress to simply being fully there. Many people interact with a hidden agenda to win affection, to appear desirable, to be memorable. But in that quest for performance, they disconnect from the moment itself. Their attention is split between the person in front of them and the image they are trying to manage. A woman can sense this immediately. She can feel when your energy is fragmented, when your focus is elsewhere, or when your words are shaped more by a desire for approval than genuine expression. Presence, on the other hand, is grounding. It tells her that you are not performing for her but experiencing the moment with her. This rarity is what makes it so magnetic. When you are truly present, your attention sharpens. You hear subtleties you would otherwise miss, the hesitation in her voice, the shift in her tone, the emotion behind her words. These details become signposts, guiding the conversation to deeper places without force. A present man doesn't rush to respond or impress, he absorbs. He allows silence without panic. He lets the moment breathe. And in that softness, she feels safe enough to show more of who she is. Presence creates space for authenticity, while performance creates pressure. She will gravitate toward the one who makes her feel expansive rather than constrained. A man who chooses presence does more than pay attention, he communicates steadiness. He is not trying to manipulate the outcome or engineer attraction. There is no urgency in proving something. This calmness is profoundly attractive because it reflects emotional maturity. Women often remember the men who make them feel steadier within themselves, not the ones who push for validation or attention. Presence creates a sense of grounded intimacy that lingers far longer than any perfectly crafted line could. It tells her that you are comfortable with your own emotional landscape, which in turn assures her that you can handle hers. Performance, no matter how polished, eventually collapses under the weight of inauthenticity. It requires constant upkeep, constant guessing, constant self-monitoring. Presence requires none of that. It is honest. It is quiet. It is strong. When you choose presence, your energy becomes an invitation rather than an act. She feels drawn toward you because you make the space between you calm, attentive, alive with possibility. It is human nature to remember the people with whom we felt most ourselves. This is why a woman continues to think about a man who embodies presence. The experience of being with him feels different, more grounded, more intimate, more emotionally real. Even when the conversation ends, the feeling stays. She replays the moments, not because he dazzled her, but because he made her feel deeply connected in a way that performance never could. The three magic words have power not because they are mysterious or clever, but because they tap into emotional intelligence and signal something rare in modern communication: maturity, vulnerability, and intention. Most people speak in ways that are reactive or habitual, using language that fills space rather than deepens it. But when a man chooses to use words that create an emotional shift, he becomes memorable. These particular words stay with a woman because they awaken something inside her. They create an emotional imprint that lingers long after the conversation ends. They do not manipulate her feelings, they invite her into a different emotional landscape, one where trust, curiosity, and connection naturally grow. When she hears these words, they subtly dismantle her defenses and invite her into a more open and intimate exchange. What makes these words so effective is that they communicate intention without pressure. They tell her that you are not simply existing beside her, but actively engaging with her inner world. They reflect attention, sincerity, and emotional presence. Women often think about the men who make them feel understood, and these words do exactly that. They show that you are not rushing toward an outcome or trying to impress her, but rather allowing the connection to unfold with authenticity. This is the emotional equivalent of giving her space to breathe, while also signaling that you value the interaction. In this space, attraction can deepen naturally, without performance or force. These words also anchor you in her mind because they contrast sharply with the typical communication she experiences. Most conversations lack depth. They skim the surface. They avoid vulnerability. But these words open a doorway to emotional resonance. They give her a sense that the conversation could lead somewhere meaningful, that the connection might hold substance. And once she senses that possibility, you begin to occupy a different place in her thoughts. She replays your words because they activated something: reflection, warmth, curiosity, or even a desire to understand you more. That emotional engagement is what creates lasting mental presence. The emotional maturity behind these words is what makes them unforgettable. They reveal that you are someone who pays attention to not just what she says but how she feels. They show that you understand the deeper layers beneath communication, and that awareness makes you stand out. When a woman feels emotionally seen, her mind naturally returns to the person who gave her that experience. These words become more than phrases, They become emotional anchors, linking her memory of the moment to the feeling it created. And feelings, far more than logic, are what keep someone thinking about you long after the conversation ends.